So the Hempstead Plains area from early on Revolutionary War has been a very important place to Long Island. We have high ground and rocks on the North Shore, and we have seashore on the South Shore, and the area between in the middle of Long Island was known as Hempstead Plains. It was a beautiful ground for raising grains, potatoes, and the needed necessities that could be milled and sawn in the mills in Long Island. Indeed, Levittown was formed on the Hempstead Plains by a person that had wonderful forward-thinking process of his name being Levitt, and he had to provide or he wanted to provide housing for the returning soldiers from the Second World War that were presently living in makeshift homes and family houses, and they wanted their own. And he built a not a cheap, but a house that was suitable for a man at a low price. Indeed, that is 1952 is when I came out of high school, but in 1950 I started working for a construction company while I was still in school, and we were involved in building the Levittown project because it employed many people. All of the tradesmen of carpenters, bricklayers, and plumbers, and so on, all employed. And when Levitt laid out Levittown, he placed churches, hospitals, shopping centers, and main roads through Levittown itself to make it accessible and an ideal place for people to raise, young people to raise a family.
All right.
Ensuingly, by 1960, it was time for me to buy a house, and because I had been in the process of working on Levittown and I was familiar with it, of course I went back there to buy a house, and I bought my first house in Levittown for $8,990. It was a very cheap price compared to today's standards, but it was a very adequate house for me to raise my family in, as all the other veterans were doing. We had wonderful schools, we had plenty of shopping, we had wonderful neighbors because they were all young people, and you could see that Levittown was growing into a busy hub here on Long Island, and a place where a man could have a business and send his people to school, and he could be teaching himself while his children were going to school. It was just a wonderful project. What else?
Well, while you were living in Levittown, and you purchased your first home, what did you think of the surrounding community and the people that lived there?
Well, the surrounding community was made up, for the most part, veterans, of which I was one, and we all had young families. The men worked 2 jobs. They had their main employment, whatever it happened to be, and secondly, many of them drove cabs because, you know, it was just a natural thing to do. The ladies were home for the most part raising the family, the children, the schools, being active in them, and PTAs, and it made it made a wonderful environment for all of the ladies in the community to be close together like that, and all under there was no one that stood out on top. They were all equal, and it was a wonderful place to raise children. They had wonderful schools, wonderful athletic fields, hospitals, of course, and all the other necessities that were needed for a young family.
How many years did you live in Levittown?
I lived in Levittown 4 years. I was about to have Raymond's mother, and we needed an extra bedroom on the house, and I either had to put an extension on the house or I had to move. And I had only had the house for 4 years, and there was a prepayment penalty if you paid the house off before 5 years, so I had to pay a prepayment penalty because I only had the house 4 years. I bought the house for $8,990, and I sold it 4 years later for $18,990, a profit of $10,000, of which I wasn't making but only about $7,500 at the time, working for Pan American World Airways.